Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm finally making another YouTube video, and today we're going to talk about Seggs and consent. So before I start the video today, I just wanted to say a couple things not regarding the video. First, I wanted to say that I no longer will call my videos like a podcast because I just feel like I edit them like YouTube videos instead of a podcast, and I also don't post the audio anywhere else. So I feel like it's not even considered a podcast. I want my YouTube videos to be commentary videos or educational. My purpose of my YouTube videos is to educate people on topics that I'm educated on or that interest me. The topics that I talk about are considered political or social issues, but to me they are just human rights, and your stance on it will show what type of human being you are. I feel like for people like me or people who think like me, most of what I say in my YouTube videos is common sense, no offense. But I feel like to other individuals who maybe grew up a different way or a different way of thinking, it is a new way of thinking or something for them to consider or change when it comes to the way they think. If I can honestly educate just one person on these topics or make them aware of these issues, then that's that's gonna make me happy because that's all I want. So before I start the video, I wanted to say trigger warning because as sexual assault and sexual harassment will be discussed. And I also want to say I'm not a medical professional. These are just things that I took the time out of my day to educate myself on. And I also wanted to say when I say the word sex, I'm gonna say eggs instead of the actual word. And for sexual harassment, I'm gonna say SH. And for sexual assault, I'm gonna say SA, because I don't want the video to get taken down. So the reason I wanted to make this video is because I feel like there's a lot of victim blaming that happens, and there is a lot of people who try to excuse the behavior of sexual assaulters and sexual harassers, my bad. And I feel like when it comes to having eggs, a lot of people want to do it or have it without really truly knowing the consequences to doing it unsafely, and really don't have realistic expectations when it comes to it, or don't know certain parts to it. And I feel like that egg education in America does not teach us enough. So I will be your egg education teacher. And the only reason I feel comfortable doing this is because it's I'm just talking to a phone, and the person watching, I don't know who's watching. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was shame. I don't understand the shame around eggs because everyone does it eventually, unless you are asexual. Everyone and their mama is going to do it eventually, and I feel a big part of the shame around it is because it usually is a vulnerable and intimate thing, and I say usually because not everyone views it that way, and that's okay. Having shame around eggs and never talking about it, especially if you are a parent, I feel like is severely dangerous, especially if your kids are young. Your kids, if they do plan on doing it, they could possibly end up in a dangerous situation or put themselves at risk for many things, or they could end up, which will most likely, this is most likely what they will end up doing, is getting their sexual education from their little friends or their partner. And they don't always have your child's well-being in mind. They some of them might not even care about your child. So it's like, would you rather them get that education from little kids, basically little ass kids, or you, a grown adult who has lived long enough to share your guidance? This to me is beyond disturbing to think about, because what the hell? And I would much rather my kid be sexually active and safely do it and have non-judgmental guidance when whenever they need it from me, instead of them doing it behind my back and putting themselves at risk. This way of thinking is disturbing to me because imagine a 20-something-year-old with the egg education of a teenager or even a preteen. And I feel like that situation is the case for a lot of people, especially the older generations. An example is my aunts and my own, like, I see this in them. And, like, I want to talk about an exact thing that was told to me by one of my aunts. She said, quote unquote, back then they would just tell us a bird would come leave a baby at your doorstep, and that's how babies were made. And she even told me she believed that up until she was either 13 or 17. I don't know. I don't remember what age exactly, but it was one of those. That is crazy. Like, even 13 is too old to be thinking that way, especially because, at least in America, when you're 13, you're going into middle school, and that's when, so many changes in your body are happening. And I just feel like, just, oh my God, no. No. Another reason I feel like your child should be, like, educated on these things as soon as possible, their body, eggs, and consent, is because if your child is S8 and they aren't educated on eggs or consent or their body, they won't be able to identify what is happening to them, let alone know it is wrong. Of course, even if they are educated on these things and you did, like, thoroughly teach them about it, it can still happen to them. But in the case that it does happen, they won't be ashamed or scared to tell you what happened and will be able to identify what happened to them and why it was wrong. Which leads me into talking about consent. What is consent? The literal definition of consent is permission for something to happen or agreement to do something. Keep the definition in your mind. Consent takes 5 seconds to ask for. Would you rather ask for someone's consent or sexually assault them or make them uncomfortable? Let me know. There's many ways that you can ask for consent. Examples are you okay? Is this okay? Do you need anything? Are you sure you want to do this? Etc. If you have already asked for consent, but for whatever reason aren't sure, you can always as well double ask. Just ask for consent to be safe. With that in mind, I wanted to introduce you guys to a consent acronym, which is FRIES, which stands for Freely Given, Reversible, Informed, and Specific. I want to focus on the reversible part. That reversible part basically just means that consent can be taken back at any time. Your body is your own, and if you ever want anything to stop happening to it or no longer participate in an action involving your body, you absolutely have every right to ask for it to stop. When talking about consent, I also think it's important to talk about communication. Communication is important, and I feel like you need to talk about egg if you're going to have it is with your partner, especially if it's your first time, first couple of times, or first time with that specific partner. I feel like you either should have the convo before, during, or even after. If you don't know where to start with this conversation, examples of topics you should bring up are what you guys like physically, what you like verbally, what's okay, what's not okay to do, if you need a safe word, what that safe word should be, if you're sleeping with other people, etc. I personally didn't have these convos when I had my first body because I didn't know how important it was, and that's part of the reason I'm making this YouTube video, to let people know that they should learn from my mistakes. I don't have before egg conversations with my current partner because I was not a virgin when I met them, and I just feel like it wasn't necessary because we do constantly reassure each other about each other's consent to each other. That was like a whole lot of the same words. Anyways, during it, and we always end up almost always having a conversation after, and I feel like it just matters that you communicate, period. It doesn't matter when, just some type of communication. And I feel like um having a conversation and communication is essential to both of you, not just feeling comfortable but enjoying the experience. And if you're too shy, not comfortable having a convo, but you're already doing it or plan to do it, keep this in mind. Keep what I'm about to say in mind, okay? Okay? Like, just take a screen recording of this in your mind. If you are grown enough to be, then you're grown enough to have an adult conversation with your partner about your egg life and how to better it. Anyways, talking about consent is going to lead me directly into the discussion of SA and SH. Trigger warning if you missed the first one for whatever reason. SA and SH. First, I wanted to go over what the definition for both of those words are. The definition of SH is unwelcome verbal or physical behavior of a sexual nature. And then the definition of SA is when someone either touches another person in an sexual manner without consent or makes another person touch them in an sexual manner without consent. Of course, keep those in mind for what I'm about to discuss. Before I want any discussion on these topics, I want to say a victim can never ever ask for it. And if you truly think this way, then you need to do some deep thinking about where that form of thinking stems from. What I gained from both definitions is that being violated sexually means for someone to cross your sexual boundaries and or overstep into your space sexually. A common misconception when it comes to SA and SH is that it happens to people, especially women, when they are out in public by a stranger. While this is a possibility, most of SA and SH cases are caused by someone the survivor personally knew. In fact, 8 out of 10 survivors. Keep that in mind while I explain to you that SA and SH also happens in marriages. Marital rape is a real and valid thing, especially in heterosexual marriages. 10 to 14% of married women are raped by their husbands in the United States. This is sadly a thing that happens because most men feel entitled to their partner's bodies, especially if they are women or femmes that they are married to. SA can also happen to men, but if it's hard for a woman to speak up, imagine a man. SA isn't exclusive to women, but it does happen to them more by men. While I discussed this, I wanted to throw in a fact I learned while doing research. People of color and LGBTQ members are at a higher risk of SA than non-people of color. Oh, my light came off. I literally just looked at like the video I just took, the first clip or whatever. I look so weird, like oh, I don't like how I look, but my light came off, so if I look like if you could see me less or whatever the hell, it's cause the light turned off, but who cares? Where was I? Oh yeah, I was saying that LGBTQ plus people and people of color are at a higher risk of SA than non-people of color LGBTQ members. While this makes sense and isn't shocking at all, it was very sad for me to learn, and I feel like it's important for everyone else to know. If you're manipulated or convinced into having eggs, hurt during eggs, when you didn't consent to it, you have vocalized discomfort, and your partner puts their pleasure over your discomfort. If your partner ejaculates inside of you without consent, you are SA'd. If you are even considering that something that happened to you was a sexual violation or SA, believe yourself, believe your gut feeling. You know why you feel what you feel. Before I go into my next topic, I will mention that I listed below resources. If you have gone through this and want to reach out for help, and I'm also always here to talk, you can always text me on IG, which is also down below. Now I want to talk about the basics that I feel like you should know if you are a virgin. I don't know why I'm whispering, a virgin. However, before I start that next topic, I want to add that this is from the point of view of someone with a female body. Your first time as a woman or female. First, before anything, if you are losing your virginity to another virgin, lower your expectations, especially if it's a man. He is not gonna rock your world. He's not. And it's because both of you don't know what you're doing. You quite literally have to teach each other and learn each other before you actually fully enjoy it. If your partner is experienced and their body count is high, I feel like you both should get tested if you have already had relations or if you also have a high body count, especially if you're going to have unprotected eggs. It truly is simple. No test results, no coochie. In my opinion, the only reason someone's body count should matter to you is the possible health risks that can come with them having a lot of bodies. It's hypocritical as fuck to expect your partner to be a virgin or have less partners than you when you yourself can't live up to that expectation. I'm talking to you, misogynistic men. Now I want to talk about the things I feel no one talks about that can happen during it and most likely will happen, especially your first time. The first thing is, this one is a more universal, it doesn't just apply to women, is that it will definitely be awkward and uncomfortable, and that's completely normal. Number two is, if you're a heterosexual woman who isn't getting enough foreplay before penetration by your partner, it's going to hurt and it might not go, and this is not your fault at all and completely your partner's because they don't even know what to do with all that. Foreplay is important and it makes penetration hurt less, and it's like a warm up before you exercise. Number three is, don't be afraid to use or toys. Again, if you want to do grown things, then be an adult about it and accept that sometimes using those things is just the help you need. Number four, and the last one, men, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's them a bit before they actually fully do it. And yes, you can get pregnant. Okay, now this is leading to my last topic of the video, which is to me the one of the biggest consequences that can happen from heterosexual eggs: pregnancy. I'm gonna try to keep my composure while talking about this because this is a topic that makes me hate it, and I feel like in our society, and especially in the mind of older generations, it is way too normalized to have kids before you're prepared. I feel an almost instant result of having kids before you're prepared seems to be having traumatized kids and making them suffer because you weren't prepared and thought having unprotected eggs was shits and giggles. Of course, I know this isn't always the case, and even people who do protect themselves can end up with an unwanted pregnancy. But there's a special kind of criticism, judgment, and hate in my heart for parents, if you could even call them that straight up neglect and abuse their innocent child because they chose to have it, knowing they weren't in the slightest prepared or mature enough to raise a child. To have and raise a child, you need to be emotionally, mentally, physically, and financially stable. And not just you, but the other parent as well. There's a lot of forms of birth control. Examples are condoms, the arm implant, pills, an IUD, a vasectomy, etc. It doesn't matter to me what it is you get, just as long as you're using some form of birth control. If you don't want to raise a child, that's what you need to do. There is also Plan B, but Plan B is an emergency pill, which means if you had a cream accident, if you know what I mean, that's what you would use. And it doesn't work if you're ovulating, meaning you will get pregnant if you take it and you're ovulating. Some birth control methods are more painful than others and have negative effects. So if you were thinking about getting on birth control or a different type from the one you are currently using, I put a link down below for more information on all the birth controls, or most. Okay, it's editing Brenda here, and I just want to say real quick, it is so weird how women are almost always expected to be the ones on birth control when they can only get pregnant 9 months out of a year, and a man could get 9 women pregnant in a year. It's fucking weird, and it's a very clear double standard that we as a society have. Not to mention, men can literally get a fucking vasectomy, and it's fucking reversible. Don't piss me off. Unwanted pregnancies are also why I fully 100% support abortions, because I'd rather a person with a female body abort a fetus instead of them having that possible baby and making it suffer because they weren't prepared to be a parent. And pro-lifers, before you even speak, you aren't actually pro-life, you are pro-birth. because I never see you guys being as outspoken about the well-being of a child after it's born. And also, of course, it's easy to judge people who get abortions when you're not the one who will forever be responsible for that possible baby. And I also wanted to mention another thing that proves my pro-life point. The foster care system is so beyond fucked up. So now putting it up for adoption is not an option. That also is probably gonna be my next YouTube video because, oh my god, the only form of adoption I feel like is appropriate is if someone who is pregnant and doesn't want to keep the child but wants to give birth, um, directly chooses the family and knows what family they're giving the baby to. That I feel like is a better way to go about it. But yeah, that just proves my point further that because I never really seen a pro-lifer ever, like literally ever, be as outspoken or advocate as much for the foster care system or government programs that could help a mother that just had a baby that didn't want it or wasn't prepared for it, and etc. Stuff like that. So it's like you don't care. You just give a fuck that that child is born because you feel entitled to a female's body. Anyways, that's the end of my video. This is my second time recording it. I hope my mic didn't die this time. My light did, but my mic died the first time. And I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something, and I'll see y'all next time.